So, you know, how do we get to a common place of common ground? Well, America has been predetermined to be in this imposition since before the constructions of the world wars and revolutions in Europe. Um, I'm not going to get into the obvious variables for an individual who's analyzed it as much as I have, but all the powers, all the dominances, all the um, superpowers had to work together with us, or on us, if you will, because they knew based on the Industrial Revolution and what us becoming the world's superpower would basically inadvertently become. They all had to work together from a global standpoint, unto which was 99% of the population at the time, I believe. Um, I don't know. In any case, America now makes up 5% of the world based on mass immigration, based on the Industrial Revolution, jobs, freedom, opportunity, yada yada yada. Um, but all these things which we now feel so dominant and superior for, the army, the place everyone wants to be, the parties, the metropolitans, the almost fully utilized agricultural space to a very high degree, and still quite a few wildlands unto which potential for uh, a lot of development is still at hand. But from Asia to Europe to the Middle East, um, somewhat South America, even though they're sort of in the same boat we are. Everyone's working on figuring out how to utilize the industrialization and the melting pot of the new world to infuse what will eventually come out of it, and a circumstance unto which is like it on the rest of the planet. Um, Methodologies and circumstance have been reinfused sort of to a very high speed and microwave-like circumstance, variables to protect multicultural, multinational variables of economic sustainability, unlike they couldn't have grasped possible based on the epic amount of royalties and geographical spaces changing. Sustainability, like China was sort of the winner in for some time. They at one point were like Europe with massive battles and wars, jeopardizing sustainability through an ancient history that essentially eventually came to a circumstance into which the high population growth is justified through sort of a non-violent implication until now, obviously, um, and sort of industrial capitalization was exploiting the country people. Um, but ultimately, you see your most sustainable population growth based on modern variables in China. It's just, philosophically what they had to add to the table, not to mention a sort of atheist-like reality, their atheism isn't atheism. Just like creative design isn't atheism to a Christian scientist. There are certain variables which intrinsically came into theological reasoning and theological, proportional, experimental, benevolent optimism for the future if we all, over time, grew with a almost brainwashed but cooperative interest to never-endingly justify love multitude of interests to vindicate and validate the sustainability of the future in cultural, variable, and artistic creative design, to invoke literal creative design of the industries around us. Um, Now, the Chinese literally believe in God. They won't tell you they believe in God because of how you've manifested variables into which people have taken into this dictator in the clouds sort of thing. They grasp the Tao. The Tao is a literal form of that into which intrinsically interconnects us to phenomena we can't grasp. But it's touching one. Like, imagine Lesotho the ant is like, guys, have you ever noticed when that guy detects sugar, we all detect sugar, and we all know exactly where to go? I'm pretty sure that's the universe. Or something. I don't know, it sounds silly, but, and then you got another ant who's like, well, the queen is quite important to our overall variable interest. She is our birth, she is our mother. Let us all serve her and be clever and brilliant and civilized. And then you have another ant who's like, well, thou shalt not kill other ants. I've seen it in a dream. Living into a